you see me do the news of the week and also the review in a single video. Well, now I am going to do the news of the week and the preview in a single video too, because this week it is the international break, and unlike many of the league around the world where there's no club games doing international break, MLS is not one of them, and that MLS still has club games that happen during international break. Whether or not if that is a great idea, that's another discussion for another day. But there's only going to be 5 games that I'm going to preview this week, so I might as well just kind of do that and also combine the news of the week, which I was supposed to do it yesterday, but I was very busy yesterday, both in terms of doing schoolwork and also attending a match that is going to be part of the Sports Hop series. But let's talk about what has happened in this past week. And before I get to talk about some of the rumor signings that has happened, because there was actually a couple of news that there's going to be a couple of clubs that is going to sign some players as the winter transfer window is going to be opening at the end of the season. I have to once again talk about the controversial rule that MLS set a couple of weeks ago, where they are not allowing fans to display any political signage or flags during games, and that I kind of knew that eventually the league was going to hand out punishment, and that this week we saw the first sign of it, where they decided that they are going to punish a couple of Timbers fans from the Timbers Army that was displaying an iron front flag. And when you watch that that Timbers game against oh god, I literally forgot who of course they were facing last time, but when you saw that game, you saw the iron flag was displaying, and when you saw that, you knew that the league probably is going to do something, and indeed they of course are going to do something by banning those fans that displayed that flag, and that they're going to be banned from going to Timbers game for free matches. And in response to that, the Timbers Army decided that they are going to really fight on this issue, and that they are kind of almost going with a war with MLS right now by just continue to try to do protests. Last time they of course did a protest where for about 33 minutes they decided to not chant and not sing, and then at the 33rd minute, once they start chanting again, they of course started singing Bella Ciao, which has a lot of resemblance to the Iron Front movement back in World War II. Now they're going to try to do another protest that I haven't really read a whole lot into what they're going to do next, but from what I heard is that instead of displaying kind of the Iron Front flag or any shapes that they have in their flag, they're just going to display a bunch of flag that has like words in it, and I have a feeling one of those flags is going to say anti-fascist and anti kind of Nazism always, and something like that, and we will see what the league is going to do about that. But either way, this is just kind of really the beginning, and I knew when they created this rule, this was going to really backfire in terms of the league, which is why last week I did say that in terms of my stance of this whole issue, I feel like MLS, either they need to just get rid of this rule. I mean, this rule is actually a rule that no other leagues around America that actually have set the rule, and that MLS is the only league out of the 5 professional league right now, that is the NHL, MLB, NFL, that actually have a rule where they said that fans are not allowed to display any kind of political signage or flags during games. So yeah, I feel like they either should just get rid of the rule so that it's not going to really continue some more kind of controversy surrounding the league and also the fan base. But it's also the fact that I think if they're not going to get rid of it, at least they need to kind of limit in terms of how they implement the rule, or kind of adjust in terms of it. And the other thing that I also want to say about this whole rule is that the reason why I still have not made a video about this, and for those people thinking, you should really discuss in terms of this whole issue with the Iron Front flag that the Timbers and Seattle tends to usually fly during their game, and people want me to talk about this controversial rule of whether or not should it be implied, or should MLS just kind of abolish it? Well, the reason why I haven't made a video about that is because I feel like this has a lot of political kind of... If I'm going to talk about this rule, I'm definitely going to hit into politics. And the last thing I want to do when I record a YouTube video is that I want to discuss politics. I mean, as I said before, if you're going to discuss politics in a YouTube video, it's like walking on a tightrope. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people that's either going to agree with my point and disagree with my point. And for those people that disagree with my point, yeah, they're going to really disagree, and that they're going to say something very mean in the comment section, which I'm not even going to try to deal with. So hence, that's why I haven't made a video about it. Will I ever make a video about it? Well, if it really gets into a point where it's going to make national headlines, and that, you know, if there's going to be people that's going to start paying attention to this, yeah, I might potentially make it. Like, if it's going to get into, if this issue is going to get as big as what the whole kneeling kind of protest issue that the NFL had a couple of years ago, then I will, of course, potentially make a video about it. But as of now, you know, I'm only going to simply say that I feel like the league should either just get rid of this rule or just kind of try to readjust it so that, you know, we're not going to continue to see these kind of protests that's going on. And it's just, in many ways, this rule has really kind of alienated some of the fan base, and the Portland Timbers is one of the prime example of that. And again, I'm very interested to see what exactly is going to happen with the Timbers Army going against MLS in terms of this rule. And what does the Timbers as a club is going to do too? I mean, are they going to let their own fan base do this? Are they going to support them? Or are they going to back by the league? Most likely, I think they're going to be backed by the league because, you know, the Timbers, after all, is partially a team in MLS, and they're going to have to listen what MLS, of course, do. But moving on, in terms of the next news, as I'm kind of spent about 6 minutes talking about that whole controversy, is that the Union, they have decided that they are going to be loaning Corey Burke to Jamaican side Portmore United. Now, for those of you wondering why exactly the Union is decided to loan one of their most promising attacker to a Jamaican side that you have never heard before, well, you know, Corey Burke, he's been having a lot of issue in terms of his visa and the fact that he couldn't quite get back to the United States because of the visa issue, and he's been kind of getting stuck at Jamaica all this time. So, you know, the Union, they thought that eventually, if the visa issue is going to resolve, and that is if it's going to resolve, they're going to have to, you know, they need one of their players to at least get into match fitness when they, of course, come back once that visa thing has been resolved. So that's why they decided to loan him to a Jamaican side so that he can, of course, get his fitness back. I mean, it's very unfortunate in this situation that Corey Burke has gone through. I mean, I think a couple of years ago we had something very similar to that, which I forgot what is the name of the player or who he played, but he also had something similar to that, and he couldn't come back to the US and play for his MLS team. But DC United have reported that they are going to sign Yamil Assad on a pre-contract that will be in 2020. Now, you know, we knew this was going to happen. Like, I even said it before with DC United that if they're going to look for a guy that is going to really help their attack, and also looking for a replacement for Wayne Rooney or even Lucho Acosta, then why not just get one of the players that they used to have, which is Yamil Assad? Because Assad, when he was with DC, he was amazing, and I was kind of surprised the fact that they decided to not really resign him, and that they decided not to even extend the loan kind of contract that he was under when he was at DC. But it seemed like DC have now officially signed him, and that he, of course, is no longer on loan. And this is why I said that he, of course, have signed him, and that he did not I did not say that he has resigned. They have resigned him because, you know, he was on loan when he was with DC United, and it's the same thing when he was on loan with Atlanta in their inaugural season. So yeah, it's good to see that DC, of course, kind of took some advice from me in terms of getting the most obvious player that can definitely fix their attack. And, you know, the only thing that is a little bit of a problem for DC in terms of this deal is that they done this deal right after when the transfer window closed. And when the transfer window closed, that means you cannot really sign any player until when the transfer window opens. So once the winter transfer window is open, they're going to get Yamil Assad, and that he, of course, will be start playing until he's going to be start playing in 2020. Inter Miami had added another player, and that they have added midfielder David Norman Jr. from the Vancouver Whitecaps. But their biggest news from this week is that they are rumored to sign another highly rated South American player. This time, it's going to be Ezequiel Palacio from River Plate, who, for those of you that don't know, that is also the same club that Pity Martinez is from when he, of course, left River Plate and decided to join Atlanta United. And from what I also have heard is that this guy was actually rumored to be joining Real Madrid, and that when you have a highly rated South American player that is rumored to join one of the biggest, if not the biggest team in the world, you know that this is definitely a very highly rated player. And I'm thinking that they'll probably make him a designated player, and that it seemed like Inter Miami is clearly copying what Atlanta United did a couple of years ago, where they're going to bring some of those South American talented player, and in some way they're kind of copying what LAFC and Inter Miami or Atlanta United is doing, where they're going to get those South American player, but we need to get like a highly rated kind of player that is very well known, kind of world-class player, which is why they've been rumored to get Luis Suarez or Edison Cavani as one of their designated player that is going to be coming into the league. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not, if this, of course, is going to pan out. And if it does pan out, I'm definitely excited to see what Ezequiel Palacio will bring to the table, and that whether or not, if he, of course, is going to be breakthrough and become kind of a Miguel Almiron kind of player, or is he going to be like Pity Martinez, where he wasn't able to settle with the team in the first couple of years. The Dynamo, of course, have reported that they have received a hefty transfer offer for Mauro Manotas from Europe. And when I mean hefty transfer offer, I mean that they have received an offer that is going to be upwards of 7-digit, and that it's going to be more than $10 million. And that if I'm the Dynamo, and if I'm going to receive an offer that is going to be upward about $10 million from Mauro Manotas, I would immediately tell them that we have accepted the offer. Like, there is no way in the world the Dynamo should be just sitting put and decided to keep Mauro Manotas when they, of course, have an offer for $10 million, because clearly this team needs to go on a rebuild and tear this down. Like, the squad that they have right now is just clearly not working, and that the only way they need to be competitive again in the league is that they just need to kind of tear down this core that they have. And eventually they're, of course, going to also sell Albert Elise in the near winter. So, of course, once you get the Mauro Manotas money and also the Albert Elise money, then the Dynamo has a lot to work with in terms of trying to rebuild this team. And that, again, it just makes perfect sense of why the Dynamo should accept this offer, considering the fact that they are about to head into a rebuilding stage. And as much as I know some Dynamo fans don't want to see Manotas go, this is how MLS works. Once you receive a big amount of money for one of your most talented player, it's very hard to say no. Like, unless you're in a playoff kind of picture, which the Dynamo clearly isn't with the way that they've been playing the last couple of months, you should just immediately accept the offer, and that kind of money can really help in terms of rebuilding in the future. Now, the Dynamo, of course, also received a bit of a bad news this week, as well. Their defender AJ De La Garza is done for the season after he, of course, fractured his foot in the last game. So, anytime when you see a guy that is done for the season, you certainly wish him a speedy recovery. And I think De La Garza, he's around like in his early 30s or mid 30s or something. So something tells me that maybe is it time for retirement for him. I mean, I'm not saying he needs to do what DeMarcus Beasley is going to do, which is going to say, yep, this is going to be my last year, and that he has to retire. But yeah, this is definitely a injury where you know, the older you get and the fact that you're of course are around your 30s, then this is kind of an injury that can really break your career and really make you fall off the cliff. So if we'll see whether or not if well, you know, certainly I wish a speedy recovery from De La Garza, but something tells me this injury could push in terms of his decision of going to retire in these next couple of years. Now, another injury that was suffered this week is, or another injury that of course did a bit of a blow to a team, is Aber. So last week I talked about how Aber, when he of course scored that first goal with Vancouver, and that in the 21st minute he of course went out with a quad injury. I thought that is going to that's gonna keep him out for about a couple of weeks or maybe even a month, because usually with quad injury that is the length of time that a player comes out, and that of course would be a huge blow to NYCFC. Well, it turns out it was around a month that he is going to miss, and that he's actually going to miss 3 to 4 weeks with that injury. And yeah, that is going to be a huge blow in terms of NYCFC, because when you look at the records that when they have Aber on the field compared to the record that they don't have him on the field, it is just vastly different. And that it kind of also reminds me of the whole Diego Chara kind of situation, where when the Timbers have Diego Chara on the field, they usually do very well. But when they don't have him on the field, then that's when they do not do very well. So, yeah, for NYCFC, this is definitely a big loss, as they, of course, lost their main goal scorer. But I have also heard that Domain Turin said that there is already going to be some reinforcement. And I'm guessing some of the reinforcement will be Mackay Stevens, the guy that's going to kind of replace him, or maybe they're going to once again put Juri Schradi back in that striker position, as they did for majority of last year when David Villa was suffering multiple injuries last season. Now, finally, in terms of the news of the week, and this news kind of aged a little bit, but I kind of want to mention it because as a Quakes fan, I'm still very pissed off about this news. Almeida, of course, will be suspended for 3 games after his alleged on-field misconduct. And just that, so I don't make this super kind of biased, I decided to just put alleged in kind of a lowercase and kind of put in a parenthesis. I mean, I could have easily put that in all caps in terms of the whole situation, but yeah, this is an absolute harsh decision in my opinion, and I know I'm a Quakes fan and I'm going to be very biased in terms of that, but really, even if you're not a Quakes fan, I just think that was just way too harsh in terms of the punishment. Yes, you know, he did kind of get into the referee face a little bit, but he did not push him or did any action to him whatsoever, and he didn't even do kind of like a Mike Pecky where he decided to kind of use some abusive language toward the referee. So why in the world is he going to be suspended for that many games? So yeah, I'm very frustrated about this kind of news, and the fact that he's not going to be available once again when we of course are going to be playing against RSL on Wednesday. But the good news for the Quakes is that at least without Almeida for the last 2 games, they of course won both of those games, and they won by a combined score of 6-1. So it seemed like the Quakes are doing just as good as when they have Almeida than when they don't have him. But at the same time, the last 2 games when Almeida is not on the touchline were against fairly easy team. This RSL game is going to really test us, and whether or not it can maybe put a verdict of the fact that whether or not if Almeida being on the sideline is going to be as important as when he, of course, is not on the sideline. But that being said, I am now going to switch the board and take a look at the 5 games that's going to be happening this weekend on international break. Alrighty, let's take a look at these 5 games that's going to be happening during international break. And going to be happening on MLS Matchweek number 26, and all 5 of these games will be happening on Saturday, but most likely I'm going to do the review on Sunday because Saturday is usually the day where I either go to a Quakes game or I of course do groundhog video, and I usually get home very late on Saturday evening. But in terms of these 5 games, obviously some of these have a lot of playoff implication, and I of course will also put out who exactly is going to be on international duty for each of these teams. And we start off with New England take on NYCFC, where NYCFC have a record of 14-8-5 and only 1 point from taking the top spot of the Eastern Conference, and also they have a game in hand, or 2 games in hand over the Union in terms of getting that top spot. Well, they're playing against a Rev team that is currently 10-9-9, and NYCFC of course won 3-1 against Vancouver away, while New England drew 1-1 against TFC at home. And also, by the way, I'm not going to do a timestamp for this preview because there's only 5 games that I have to do, and I don't think I need to do like a timestamp when I'm only previewing 5 games. But in terms of players on international duty for NYCFC, they do have a couple of players that is going to be on international duty, and mostly it's going to be in the back line with Motorita, Chanot, Callens, Sean Johnson, and Hack not available for this game. And for New England, now I look on the league website and I look on where basically every team in terms of players that they're going to be missing for international duty, and I have to check this twice. But it turns out nobody is going to be on international duty for New England, which is kind of surprising because I'm pretty sure every single team there's going to be at least 1 player that is going to be missing for international duty. And the fact that New England is probably the only team that are not going to miss any guys for international duty is kind of a little bit surprising. And usually when you have a team that is not going to be have any player that's going to be missing during international duty kind of match week, yeah, you will know that team really suck and kind of like near the bottom of the table. But that's not what New England is, as they are in the mix of trying to get into the playoffs. And speaking of the playoffs for New England, despite the fact that they are sitting in 6th place right now, and they currently have 39 points right now, and currently they're only 2 points behind the Red Bulls in terms of that 5th spot, and around 3 points behind DC in terms of that last spot to host a playoff game in the first round. They are also only 2 points above Montreal in terms of that cutoff line. Now, New England does have 2 games in hand over Montreal, but New England's got to be careful because they're in a good position in terms of making the playoffs. But they can't just start losing games and start going on a bad run in September, and you would think that they of course will still be in that same spot that they have. Now, they are of course playing against NYCFC, which is one of the toughest plays to play, and that NYCFC doesn't usually lose at Yankee Stadium. However, recently NYCFC has kind of looked a little bit vulnerable at times when they're playing at home against an opponent, and the fact that NYCFC is going to be a little bit shorthanded, and I'm assuming maybe Domai Torrent is going to rotate his squad a little bit because NYCFC is one of the 2 teams that's playing on this weekend that will have a midweek game, and that's also going to be one of the game in hand that they have this season that they're going to be playing on Wednesday. So yeah, something tells me they might rotate in this game and they might not, but we shall see how this game of course would play out. This seems like a very interesting kind of matchup. But moving on into the next game, we got FC Cincinnati taking on TFC. So FC Cincinnati has a record of 5-3-20, and they are currently at the spot where they're gonna win the wooden spoon if they of course can stay at last in the standing. And also they're one of the 2 teams so far this season that is eliminated from the playoffs. While TFC, they are a team that is in that last spot of the playoffs with a record of 10-8-10 and have a 1-point lead over Montreal in terms of the last playoff spot, although they do have 2 games in hand over Montreal in terms that last spot in the playoffs. FC Cincinnati, of course, they have lost 7 out of their last 8 games, while TFC, of course, drew 1-1 to New England. For guys that is going to be on international duty for FC Cincinnati, Kendall Waston, Alan Cruz, Derek Etienne Jr., and Elvis Powell will be all missing in this game because of international duty. While for TFC, they're going to be missing Jonathan Osorio, Telfer, Liam Frazier, and Larea in this game. And that, no disrespect to FC Cincinnati, but this is a free win for TFC. Like, seriously, if they do not get anything but 3 points in this game, I seriously have doubts in terms of their chances of making the playoffs, and that every single team, well, almost every single team this season has been able to beat FC Cincinnati. Either they're playing them on the road or they're playing at home. So there is no excuse whatsoever to drop points for TFC. And I know they are going to miss a couple of guys in terms of international duty. Well, actually, probably the most important guy that they're going to be missing is Larea and Osorio. And that they're going to still have Josie Altidore and Pozuelo in this starting 11. But there's no excuse in terms of dropping points against FC Cincinnati that is on verge of becoming one of the worst franchise to start their MLS year in history. But yeah, moving on into the next match is another game that have playoff implication in terms of the Eastern Conference, and one of those teams that is chasing TFC is Orlando City, who has a record of 9-7-13, and unfortunately they are going to be facing against a pretty pissed off LAFC team that of course lost their 4th game of the season and have a record of now 19-5-4. I mean, they must be very pissed off the fact that they have only lost for the 4th time this season, and that they of course lost the first time this season at home against Minnesota 2-0, while Orlando City completely dropped the ball against the Quakes and wasn't even didn't feel like they even showed up in San Jose, while they lost 3-0 in that match. And for players that is currently on international duty for Orlando City, Miller, Sean Johnson, Mendez, and Askew is going to be on international duty. For LAFC, they actually have a couple of guys that's going to be on international duty. Brian Rodriguez, Walker Zimmerman, Palacio, Atuesta, and Mark Anthony Kay is going to be missing due to international duty. So this LAFC team is going to be kind of a B kind of level kind of team that's going to be playing against Orlando City, although they're going to still have Vela. Or actually, I'm not quite sure if Vela is going to be back in this game, and if he's not going to be in this game, then I'm assuming it's going to be kind of a B squad that Orlando City is going to be facing. But knowing the fact that, besides what happened last week where, that was a very unusual kind of loss at home against Minnesota, and knowing the fact that LAFC have not lost back-to-back games this season, something tells me they are probably not going to lose this one or drop points, and that it seemed like every time when they lost a game, they always come back very angry and decide to put 6 or 7 past their opponent. Now, I'm not saying that Orlando City has no chance in this game and that they should be very scared coming into this one, but I'm just saying that, if you're going to make the playoffs, and this is why for Orlando City, when they have those easy opponents where they can of course get points, and that last week against the Quakes, I won't say the Quakes on the road is an easy opponent because the Quakes are very good at home, but it's a game that they need to get at least a point or even 3 points if they're going to be in playoff conversation, and now they're going to be facing the best team in the league to be able to get back into the playoff conversation. And all I have to say is, good luck, Orlando City. Hopefully you don't get absolutely dismantled by LAFC in this game. And hopefully Vela does not play in this game, because if Vela plays in this game, something tells me this could maybe be a thrashing. But moving on into the next match is Colorado. So the Rapids are playing against the Sounders in this game, and the Rapids currently have a record of 8-6-14, while Seattle currently has a record of 13-7-8. And coming into this game, the big story of this game has to be with the fact that the Sounders, they're going to miss a ton of star-studded player in this game. And this is where I talked about how before with the Sounders, this might be a game where they can maybe prove me wrong in terms of the fact that they don't really have any depth, and that when they do not have some of those star-studded player in this team, they just cannot, of course, win a game. And talk about the guys that they're, of course, going to be missing on international duty, and why I say pretty much every star-studded player on that team is going to be missing in this game. Well, you got guys like Brad Smith, Xavier Arenga, Raul Ruidiaz, Gustav Svensson, Jovan Jones, Christian Rodon, Jordan Morris, and Ocampo Chavez, all going to be missing in this game. And besides Ocampo Chavez, who haven't really played a single minute for the Sounders, all of these remaining guys are basically guys that regularly play in the starting 11 for the Sounders that is not going to be available in this game. Now, for Colorado, they are also going to be missing a couple of guys. They're going to be missing Diego Rubio, Sebastian Anderson, and Cole Bassett. Rubio is probably going to be their biggest miss because he is one of their attacking weapon. And in terms of the last match for both of these teams, well, Colorado, of course, if it wasn't for Minnesota pulling off that stunning upset against LAFC on the road, they would have had the biggest surprising and the biggest upset win last week by winning 2-0 away to the Red Bulls. While Seattle, of course, won 4-3 against the Galaxy at home. But, again, Seattle is not going to have a lot of their star-studded player, not going to have a very strong starting 11. And playing against a Rapids team that's known to spoil teams' chances in terms of making the playoffs and pretty much playing the spoiler role, I have a feeling Seattle could potentially lose this game, and that, you know, keep in mind, the Sounders, despite the fact that they're in second in the Western Conference, that Western Conference right now is very, very tight. Like, the between second through all the way to ninth place is only separated by just 9 points. And the fact that, you know, if the Sounders does lose this game and other team around them started to, of course, get wins, then they could easily find themselves near just above the red line. So the Sounders, you know, I know that a lot of fans are going to be complaining about the fact that MLS, of course, playing on international duty is stupid, and the fact that this is a pure example of them where we're going to have to put some of our reserve player in this game because all our players is going to be on international duty. But again, this will be a good test for them and kind of in some way prove me wrong in terms of the fact that they cannot win a game without those star-studded players that they have in this game. But there's no doubt, I think Colorado is going to be heavy favorites in this one. Now, moving on into the next match, is Seattle Cascadia rival Portland Timbers. So they play against SKC in this game, and this is no doubt the game of the week, as Portland currently have a record of 12-4-11, while Sporting KC has a record of 10-7-11. And the reason why I say this is the game of the week is because both of these teams are just on the outside looking in the playoffs. Portland currently 8th place and currently 2 points behind the Galaxy in terms of that last playoff spot, but they do have a game over the Galaxy. While Sporting KC, who looked like a couple of weeks ago they were dead and buried, has string off 3 straight wins, with them winning 1-0 against Houston at home. And by the way, Portland also won 1-0 against RSL at home in that match. And that, you know, Sporting KC, they are definitely started to finally have that resurgence that we thought they're going to have in the second half of the season. Now, the thing is, in terms of the players on international duty, and that this could maybe affect Sporting KC chances of winning this game, is that they're going to miss a couple of important players in Felipe Gutierrez, Baref, Christian Nemeth, Hasler, Gianluca Busio, but most importantly, the match winner in the last game for SKC, Johnny Russo, is not going to be available in this game. And that, you know, for Portland, Zambrano, Paredes, and Flores is all the guys that is going to be out, so they're not going to be missing a lot of players coming into this game. Yeah, something tells me this is going to be a daunting task for SKC to get all 3 points, and that I think for SKC, if they can at least get a point out of this game, this will really help their chances in terms of making the playoffs, because, you know, Portland is a team that you would think they should win this game considering the fact that they're playing at home, and that despite the fact that they haven't been as good at home in these last couple of games, they have they pretty much have they have a bunch of guys that is not not on international duty, and unlike SKC, they do miss a couple of those starters that's gonna be on international duty. So you would think the Timbers should be able to win this game, but you never know. You know, this is a match where both of these teams really need to get a win so that they can, of course, get themselves above the red line. And at the end of the day, I think this is going to be a very interesting and a hell of a fight kind of game. And whoever, of course, win this game will have a big chance of potentially making the playoffs and going above the red line. But either way, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time. And oh, by the way, let me know in the comments below what do you think of the prediction for all 5 of these games, and also if I miss any news that has happened during the news of the week, let me know in the comments below also. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.